Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week we see how the jump points of CitizenCon was made, we get updates on many ships, plus we hear the future for ship modules and physicalized damage. So before we begin, just a quick update on the 3.8 patch. It is currently on 3.8.0G and it's still with the Eva Cotti. The focus is general gameplay and traversal, as well as this camera look ahead mode. From the leaks I've seen, locations are looking incredible, but there still appears to be a few issues. Not all of the features are in yet though, and obviously we still have no idea when it's coming to the wider PTU, but I'm sure it's not going to be long now. Sounds like they're progressing on the 30k issues and figuring out some back-end solutions for that, which is excellent news. But if you are wanting to see all the leaked footage, be sure to check out my 3.8 leaks videos, which I have linked in the description below. So I just want to say a huge thank you to my latest patrons, Ricochet and Timo Metz. Your support is very much appreciated, thank you so much. If you do enjoy my videos and would like to help make them even better, be sure to follow the link in the description below and check out my Patreon. So on Inside Star Citizen this week, the whole episode was talking about jump points, which we recently saw at this year's CitizenCon keynote. The demo jump point was on the edge of a nebula, and they used the gas cloud tech to create that effect. This actual cloud tech looks extremely incredible. You can see how big it is and how big they can be. It'll be great when they finally get it into the game and we can see some interesting locations, maybe hiding the derelicts inside them, just making the spacescape look a lot more interesting. Now the jump points themselves are not faked. You actually travel through to a whole new system when you do go through the holes. It's not a loading screen. They do show many branching paths which you could navigate through. I'm not sure what happens if you go through the wrong path, but the visual effects gives a very otherworldly look. They use a stream of particles to help lead the player to keep in the center of the jump point, and they used roller coasters as inspiration, which you can kind of tell. So they create a spline which allows them to mess around with the route, changing the directions and so forth, and then the column obstacles that stretch across the inside of the jump points are procedurally generated, which means that each jump point will feel unique and present its own challenge. Now these are looking really cool, and the sounds of them are just something to behold. When they first showed them off, the actual audio of the jump points gave me shivers. I cannot wait to jump through to another system like Pyro and then get exploring again. But if you do want to check out this video yourself, by all means do so. There wasn't really too much to be said, but they are looking very cool. So this week's Star Citizen Live was all about spaceships with John Crew and Paul Jones. There was a hell of a lot of information to be had and some very interesting points to be made, so let's crack on. First question was, what is the status of implementing physicalized components? They say right now they are going through all the manufacturers of components and just getting their style guides down. Since the release of the Terrapin, they now ensure to include all the locations for components within ships. They have recently gone through all the old ships before the Terrapin and allocated space for the components, and this quarter they have done the preliminary work to be able to place the actual items inside object containers, which, like ships, which can then connect to the vehicle, meaning that most of the prelim work is done. This also was needed for things like the Retaliator modules, and I guess all the modules on other ships as well. For large ships, they say most of the components will be found on the inside, but there are some components which are accessible on the outside, especially for smaller ships. Hopefully this means that they can get this out to us as soon as possible once they get all the manufacturers' styles down, because I cannot wait to be swapping them out physically and starting the whole engineering gameplay. Now the next question was to do with the Redeemer, and is there an update? And that actually was an update. So as we know, they're making it into a gunship instead of a dropship now that they have the Vanguard Hotplate and the Valkyrie. They've done some more reconcepting to make it more Aegis, so it is staying as Aegis. It still looks like the original ship, they say, but they have added a few extra weapons. They've done a lot of work on it, and it uses the Vanguard kit to reduce the workload so that they can focus on the more unique areas. This doesn't mean it's going to come anytime soon, but when they do have more, they will show us. Now this is excellent news. Hopefully they keep the unusual thrusters and just tie them into the lore some way. I do like them, but I'm glad that they have begun to move on this. It has been a long time coming. Sticking with the ship updates, We had questions in regards to what's happening with the Drake Corsair, the Polaris, the Misk Endeavour and the Hull C. Now, for the Corsair and the Polaris, there is no news. They are not in active production. The Endeavour, like the Carrack, will need to have a little update to the original concepts. It's an older ship, so they didn't have the metrics back then. They need to now use the metrics and properly set it out, which is quite a big task, unfortunately. For the Hull C, this needed docking, which was a big blocker, but thanks to Chris Roberts, who has now finished the new physics refactor, it can be done. They still need supersized cargo boxes, and they need to allow physics grids and vis areas to be transformable at runtime, which basically means that when the Hull C expands, the center spline needs to expand with it and allow people to still navigate through. So it's in final art now, and hopefully soon we will see not only an update on the roadmap for the Hull C, but also for docking. Fingers crossed it won't take them too long. I can't imagine creating supersized cargo will take too long, but this physics grid and vis area stuff, I'm not really sure how long that will take. Next question is, will the Banu Merchantman maintain its 3,500 standard cargo units? They say it's very unlikely. They need to do a little more concept work from the lessons that they've learnt when they developed the Defender, but similar to how the Carrack lost a lot of its standard cargo units, so will the Banu Merchantman. Now, they now have established metrics for cargoes, so it will not likely remain at 3,500 SEU. Don't expect them to increase the size of the Banu Merchantman to cater for that size cargo as well. Similar again to the Carrack, it will limit to where it can go and where it can land, so they want to try and keep the Banu Merchantman at the same size, which means expect a similar reduction in SEU. Next question is, will the Argo Mole be gameplay ready when released? And they say yes, it uses a lot of the same tech as the Prospector. It's got a size 2 mining head, so the beam will be stronger and go further than the Prospector laser, but it will be 100% gameplay ready. What are the status on the Caterpillar door elevators? Now, I'm very interested in this. Great question. Now, they say the reason it's not done is due to the elevator system limitations. They are on the cusp of improving this, which will allow for 2 states that's needed, opening and lowering. The transit system cannot deal with the hydraulics of the Caterpillar doors yet. The Carrack's elevator, which we saw in the SitCon demo, was with the new building block screens, is what they need on the Caterpillar, and so will come along once they have that fully solved. This will also include grids on the elevators, which will stop vehicles that you load into them from flying around and jittering around inside. So any ship which has things like elevators will be getting set up with the new building block system. The Carrack is actually the test case for this. They will likely go over all the other ships and ensure that the doors and such have appropriate buttons to open and close them in the right places. Currently, they're not all unified, like you could click on the door or you click on the button. Trying to make sure that people know what's going on is important. Now, it sounds like they're making great headway on a lot of this important tech that is needed to finish off systems like this. Hopefully, when it works with the Carrack, they'll apply it to the Caterpillar and we'll be able to lower the doors and the elevators, which I think is just make the Caterpillar a bit more final and finished. So I'm excited for that. Next question is it possible to sabotage a ship from the inside by damaging or removing components? Now, they say absolutely. There's going to be different levels of sabotage. You could just open up a component hatch and remove the component completely. You could also shoot it to degrade the performance. You could maybe take out a sub-item which is used to buff the components, and then that will confuse the pilot. Will Weisbaum, who is one of the lore team guys, suggested maybe having a sub-component that can do damage or tinker with the component that it's placed into, which I do like the idea of that. Maybe you buy it from the black market, you insert it, and it somehow interferes with the component itself, which then trickles into the other systems. That would be very cool, so hopefully we'll see more on that one day. My next question, has the recent Carrack feedback altered the exterior going forwards? Do check out my latest leaks video to see the current look of the Carrack. Now, the ship wasn't finished in the CitizenCon demo, so it did kind of cause a bit confusion, and the lighting really washed out the exterior detail. They want to stick to the release date of the Carrack, which is February 2020, so they are only addressing minor changes, but they have taken our feedback into consideration. Someone wanted more information on the swappable module pods for the Carrack. Now, for release in 3.8, the Carrack has got the bog standard cargo bay pods, which we saw recently. One other option is that they could bring in a ballista transporter, because the ballista fits lengthways in one of those pods without the central gangway. So technically it could be able to carry 3 ballistas, which is very useful. Maybe even a science lab area, which can be flown in and dropped off to do experiments on the surface of a planet or moon. You could potentially drop off all the pods, they say, and still walk around the ship, as it's still accessible without them. It may look a little different, but it's doable. But when they begin making them, they will talk more about them, about the pods, and the same goes for the Caterpillar and their modules. Now, I'm really excited to see more in regarding to modules, obviously being a Caterpillar owner, especially as a Caterpillar owner myself. The idea of dropping off a science pod planetside and then doing the same somewhere else, it goes to show that exploration as a profession leads into many other areas of the game, and the Carrack will definitely be a great ship to use. I hope to see other module pod types like maybe a medical bay, an armory, habitation, vehicle or public transporters. If you have any thoughts on what modules you would like to see, do drop it in the comments below. I would be interested in knowing. But I'm excited to start getting this variation into the game for all the ships that can take this, like the Retaliator, for example. Now, someone asked about the Starlifter, and which variant are we getting for 4.0? Now, it does say on the roadmap that we're going to get the C2 base, Hercules. Once they've got that done, they will move on to the other 2. They do usually try to get the base ship done first, as they learn a lot from building that and then move on to the other variants. Not set in stone, they could decide to tackle them all in one go, but I think it's safe to say we're likely going to get the C2 first and then the rest later. Will we get more scanners to detect harvestables in 3.8 is the next question. Now, they say that this is more of a gameplay question, but they may allow all ships to detect minables using their scanners, and depending on the scanner you have will determine things like the range. For example, maybe if you have a rubbish scanner, it can only detect minables from 10 meters away, whereas if you have a top of the range scanner, it'll be maybe 10 kilometers away. We will likely see specialized scanners as well for detecting different things, maybe one for finding biological life samples or harvestables on planets versus minables versus ships for combat. So there will be a lot of variation. It's just a matter of when. I'm looking forward to when we do get more components like this and items to upgrade for various scenarios. So if you've got a mission in mind, picking up a scanner for that particular mission will be great fun. Can the carrier ships refuel the ships that they carry? Now, I think it was in a Pisces Q&A post, but yes. So for example, the Carrack can refuel the Pisces while it's docked inside its hangar, but it'll be from the Carrack's reserves. What's the plan with spawning vehicles in vehicles? Now, they said it will be likely used through the VMA or the Vehicle Manager app on your Mobiglass, like an item port. So you attach a vehicle to the item port like a hangar or a cargo hold. For example, you can attach an Ursa rover to the Aquila's cargo hold. Next question is, what is the plans with the 600i interior? Obviously, a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of wasted space. They say they will address this in the future, but it's not a priority right now. Will we be able to hail our own ships as we're coming into land, maybe to open the hangar? So, for example, if you're approaching your Carrack and there's no one else on board to open the hangar for you, can we use our Mobiglass to request landing? Now, John Crew says personally he does want this. It'll be similar to maybe a landing request that we have now with air traffic controllers. Not confirmed, but it is something they will explore. Second to last question is, will the Prowler's phalanx shields be functioning when flyable? Now, they won't have the full behaviour, but they will have a different behaviour to the current shields. So it'll have quicker regeneration and hardening and be able to block 100% ballistics and energy damage. But they say it'll be better to have a dedicated second person helping move the shields around as and where needed. So hopefully this will bring some multi-crew gameplay. Now, the final question, which I left till last because it's such an incredible question, answer. What's left to bring ship time to disable instead of time to kill? So obviously, instead of ships just blowing up and killing the occupants, disabling them, allowing people to board or whatever they want to do. Now, they say they need to get the physicalized components in first, which we spoke about earlier, and then also move on to a physically based damage system. So instead of bullets and lasers and other projectiles chipping away at the overall health pool, these projectiles will come with a velocity, an energy and a mass, which will then damage the ship's location it was hit with an impact and penetration, and then over time it will weaken the ship's structure in that location, and then making the items fail and affect other areas realistically. So bits snapping off or things inside, if you penetrate through the ship's hull and hit a shield generator, it'll affect it that way. They have started the initial groundwork for this. All the formulas, parameters and materials needed are all worked out. It's in the early stages of getting programmers to get it done, but it will change the game a lot. Now this is going to be something super incredible, and I'm really glad that they addressed this. Not only will it make combat feel so much more immersive and interactable, but if you've managed to scrape your way through a battle and then you land in your hangar and you take a look at the damage, it will be realistic to where you was hit, and you'll have to start repairing it. Now I can't wait for this feature to come in. The way that this will affect space combat, or any sort of ship combat or vehicle combat, is going to be incredible. Actually dealing damage to the location it hits, representing that damage visually, but also penetrating through the ship and damaging interior components. It's going to look and feel amazing. Anyway, do let me know your thoughts. It was quite a long Star Citizen live, but it was totally worth it. So also this week, there was a new portfolio post talking about the Versus Ultimate Consumer Guide, which is whitelist. The Anvil Pisces received its Q&A. There was a Traveler's Guide to Microtech, plus a lot of photos from CitizenCon. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. Hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and share the video with all your friends. If you like what I do and want to help me make it better, follow the link below to my Patreon page to learn more.